Hello, this is Eric Klein from wisdomheart.org. Excited about the new program on mantra and emotional freedom. I'll talk a little bit about mantra today. So what is a mantra? A mantra is a tool for shaping the mind. If you look at the Sanskrit word mantra itself, it's divided into two syllables, man and tra. Man relates to the concept of mind. Tra relates to the concept of a tool for shaping something. So a mantra is a tool for repatterning or reshaping the mind stuff, if you will. And of course you know that your mind and the patterns of your mind have been shaped by your personal history. They've been shaped by the culture or cultures that you've been embedded in over your lifetime. And I think you also know, if you've ever traveled outside of your home country, or if you've had friends from other cultures, you've clearly experienced the difference of cultural patternings. The way something as simple as shoes can mean radically different things as you cross from one culture to the other. You've probably even seen the differences in personal history and personal meaning within people in your own family. People who ostensibly were raised by the same parents, for example, or who went to the same family gathering, so they shared some kind of personal history together and yet had radically different interpretations and meanings, different patterns. But whether it's been people in your own family or whether it's been people from other cultures, I'm sure you've also seen and felt and experienced that there's a level, dimension of human experience that, in a sense, is deeper than either personal history or cultural conditioning, deeper than personal conditioning or cultural conditioning. That there's a dimension of human experience that we might call the common humanity, or in another sense we might call it a set of universal patterns, archetypal or universal patterns that transcend and yet inform both cultural and personal symbolism and personal history. So there's something universal at the deepest level. At another level, there's cultural meanings and patterns. And then at the top level, there's the individual or personal patterns that kind of define our uniqueness. And we all, within our consciousness, contain these three levels of patterning: personal patterns, collective or cultural patterns, and also universal patterns. Spiritual practice, the differentiation between sort of religiosity and spirituality that many people enjoy making, is a difference between moving from cultural patterns to the deeper level of the universal patterns, the universal states of consciousness that reside at a more primal, more basic, simpler and yet more potent level of consciousness. And mantras are tools for communicating and communing with that universal level of awareness, for connecting with patterns of consciousness that reside at the deepest level of your humanity. If you're stuck in a pattern, in other words, if you're stuck in some dimension of your personal history, or if you feel constrained in some ways by the cultural conditioning that you've grown up with, the spiritual solution is to go to a more primary state of consciousness, to transcend personal and cultural conditioning and to commune with this universal level. And mantras are a tool for doing that. You could say that mantras are the language of this archetypal domain. They are sound symbols that attune your awareness to this underlying and deeply nourishing and healing level of consciousness. So when the yogis, the ancient yogis, were in deep meditation, when they were in attunement to these deep universal states of consciousness, they encountered these powerful and primal force fields. And these force fields, of course, are and were and are alive, organic. They're vibrating. And this vibration takes, in one level, takes the form of sound. As the yogis returned to the everyday state of consciousness, they remembered the sound. And in order to return back, in other words, in order to take the journey from their ordinary state of consciousness back to communion with that primal awareness, with that deeply healing force field, what did they do? They called on the name. They called the name of that force field, because at that universal level of consciousness, the name is the force field. It's not like the name pen. Pen is a word that denotes or points to the pen. Now, at the universal level of consciousness, the name is the thing itself. So to call upon the name, or to chant the mantra, to vibrate your mind and body in attunement to that particular patterning, is actually to repattern your own consciousness in resonance with that universal level. And in this way, your mind and body is profoundly nourished. In this way, your inner being is transformed. So while on a cultural level, it might be said that the mantras are the names of gods or goddesses or something like this, and that you're chanting to that particular god or goddess, at a deeper, more mystical and really yogic level, what you're doing is recognizing that the sound itself is the personification of that energy field, and that by communing with that sound, you are becoming one with that energy. And by becoming one with it, you, as a cultural being, you as in your personal life, have made a connection, and you can bring that universal energy now into your life in a way that is transformational. So if you want to go more deeply into this practice and begin to bring that universal level more alive in your personal life, check out the class, Mantra and Emotional Freedom. Until then, this is Eric Klein from wisdomheart.org.